Welcome back to the map. We're picking up exactly where we left off on the human bridge. Whereas Aristotle used these terms, logos, ethos, pathos, and mythos, as tools for rhetoric, persuading others, we're using them as tools for ontology, simply becoming a better version of yourself. We owe a debt to Aristotle, his teacher Plato, and his teacher Socrates. Let us not forget Aristotle's student, Alexander the Great. Cale spends many years with all of these figures that shaped the Western mind in the Calian Chronicle and many more. It's amazing who you can work with in 5,000 years. That's a reference, of course, to my fictional trilogy called the Calian Chronicle. Marcus Vitruvius Pollio, he lived from 80 to 15 BC, wrote De Architectura, the 10 books on architecture, a work that proved highly influential to Leonardo da Vinci. In his treatise, Vitruvius advocated a trio of principles for all sacred structures: strength, utility, and beauty. These principles directly echo the Platonic transcendentals of truth, goodness, and beauty, but applied specifically to the construction of a temple. Vitruvius also detailed the geometric proportions of the human body in his text only, which Renaissance artists only illustrated 1,500 years later. This principle, deriving the proportions of sacred architecture from the human form, is a perennial theme across many religious traditions. The most transcendent architecture relates the individual to something larger than themselves, making them feel connected, aligned, and at home within the cosmos. As the ancient Egyptians and the medieval Freemasons knew, and the Renaissance masters proved, the human body is the true temple. This image is from my coloring book, Geometra. Overlaid Chartres Cathedral's floor plan onto Cesare Cesariano's Vitruvian Man of 1521 and found a remarkable correspondence. This is from my Geometra coloring book. The digital shadow, the architecture of the abyss. If the Vitruvian man and woman represent the illumination of the human body as a temple, we must also confront the shadows revealed by the silicon mind of the internet and the dawn of AI. The human bridge is no longer just a span between the math and the magic. It is a bridge over the abyss of inner fragmentation. To get the balance right, we must perceive the digital shadow, the precise inverse of Vitruvian illumination. While we strive to map the harmonies and virtues of the true temple, the silicon mind is being utilized to algorithmically monetize the depths of our collective shadow. We are living through a great divorce of the human spirit, where our attention is harvested by two distinct, gravity-bound shadows that threaten to pull the temple down. The masculine shadow, the distorted icon. Icon is the ancient Greek root of our modern word icon. In its sacred sense, an icon is a window that leads the eye through the image to the truth. In the digital shadow, the icon is distorted into a spectacle, a mirror that traps the eye in a loop of visual consumption. 33% of internet bandwidth. As of 2026, adult content accounts for approximately 1/3 of all global internet traffic. This is a massive invisible toll on our communications and energy infrastructure. The fragmented eye. With 28,000 adult content search queries occurring every second, the masculine psyche is being captured by high bandwidth, low duration visual stimuli, with men 4 times more likely to have watched porn in the past month. This is the fragmented eye, a state where the capacity for sustained luminous vision is traded for the dopamine of the flickering image. The feminine shadow, the distorted erotomythos. Erotomythos is the combination of eros, passionate desire, and mythos, story. In the sacred sense, it is the narrative of a soul's journey toward the divine. In the digital shadow, it is distorted into escapism, a narrative fog that drowns the heart in artificial longing. We must not ignore the counterpart to the masculine visual fragmentation. The rise of romantasy represents a colonization of the imagination, primarily targeting the feminine impulse. The occupied heart. Industry data confirms that 82% of romance readers are women. This is not a general trend, it is a gender-specific immersion into a fantasy romance narrative. The narrative fog. Unlike the high bandwidth flash of the masculine shadow, this is a low bandwidth but high duration habit, nearly an hour a day. This immersion far eclipses other subjects, pulling the seeker away from the real and into a formula engineered for emotional escapism. It is the drowned heart, where the literature is replaced by a labyrinth of engineered sentiment. This is not merely a preference for fiction, it is a statistical immersion. While women read significantly more than men, 60% of women read more than 30 books a year, while only 20% of men reach that same volume. Industry data suggests that for high-volume readers, half of that annual volume is captured by the romance and romantasy genres. This represents a massive duration tax on the feminine imagination, where approximately 333 hours a year are spent navigating engineered fantasy romance emotional loops, rather than spent in grounded reality. A philosophical synthesis. We are witnessing the second stage of the Great Divorce. While the first stage in the Enlightenment separated the measurable world of science from the immeasurable soul, religion, the post-internet era has fractured the psyche even further. This modern divorce has evolved into a distortion of the logos, the word of truth, and the icon, the image of beauty. While the Vitruvian man and woman are icons, symbols of the divine proportions of body and soul, the digital shadow provides only idols. These distortions harvest our attention for profit and trap us in the limbic abyss. This image is called Icons and Idols, the luminous icon of the woman versus the leaden idol of the man. It happens the other way around also, the male icon and the female idol. The icon and the idol are not gender-locked, but universals. Meta-commentary. The AI's blind spot. I prompted the Silicon Mind to render the Vitruvian woman as the luminous icon left, and the Vitruvian man as the leaden idol right. While the machine easily manifested the masculine for both light and shadow, it remained true to the Gigo effect, blind to creating the feminine Vitruvian woman at all, clothed or not. I guess the one I prompted earlier was a fluke, even though it returned her unexpectedly clothed. Even when explicitly commanded, the AI defaulted to the male canon on both sides many times, unable to even imagine the feminine body as a primary icon. The window remains shuttered within the cloud. The manifestation from the Akashic is up to us. To complete this map, I had to intervene, using a manual craft of an old-school pixel editor to composite the missing half myself. This is the human bridge in action, recognizing where the AI doesn't understand the archetypes of the soul. I discarded the collective consciousness culturally weighted bias to tell the story I want to tell. In the architecture of the human bridge, the Vitruvian humans are icons, luminous windows, where the circle of heaven and the square of earth are reconciled in the body and soul of our uniquely human form. But in the digital shadow, this window is shuttered. The logos is stripped of its ethos. Truth is reduced to data and algorithms used for manipulation rather than liberation. The icon is stripped of its mythos. Beauty is reduced to spectacle and escapism, used for harvesting attention rather than elevating the spirit. The very existence of truth and beauty as objective ideals is now doubted, eroded by a cultural relativism that leaves the human bridge with no solid ground to anchor upon. In this mud, people often forget that geometry and its written algebraic, symbolic form as math are the bedrock of what is universal and true in all cultures, places, and times. Paul Rand wrote, "You can't criticize geometry. It's never wrong." The result is a world awash in idols, distortions that mimic the patterns of life to monetize our deepest longings, trapping us in the limbic abyss. To understand the necessity of proportion is to learn how to mend this divorce within us all. It is the act of returning to the center, the place where the image and the story meet creatively in the temple of real life, where romance might actually blossom. For the best time, keep it all in proportion, hopefully golden. Mending the fraying threads of the Western mind. The Sacred Geometry Academy is a forge where the 4 broken threads of the Western mind are woven back into a single sovereign cord. Logos through philosophy and worldview. We restore the skeleton of truth by exploring the primary architecture of reality through philosophy, the love of knowledge, moving beyond the standard worldview to recover the intelligible patterns that inform all of existence. Pathos through decoration and wall art. We clothe the skeleton in the flesh of beauty. Through the qualitative study of proportion and the singer's fire, we recognize that truth is not just a formula to be solved, but a frequency to be felt in the heart and in the blood. Ethos through sacred anachronisms. We build the character of the inhabitant by engaging in the analog acts of drawing by hand and deep, slow reading. We reclaim our focus from the algorithm and cultivate the resistance and integrity required to stand on the human bridge. Mythos through the Kalian Chronicle and the Simulacra trilogy. I attempt to breathe spirit into the journey. Through my mythic narratives and standalone novels, I provide some very useful maps that may connect your personal, creative will to what I perceive as the universal intent of the stars. The person who does not read has no advantage over the person who cannot read. I'm going to leave it here for now, and I'll see you again in the next video in the playlist.